I see you. Right now, right in this exact moment, I see the heavy, invisible weight resting upon your shoulders. You might be sitting alone in your car, in a crowded parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, dreading the moment you have to turn off the engine and step out into the endless demands of your day. Or perhaps you are standing in your kitchen, staring out the window, surrounded by the quiet hum of a house that constantly needs your attention. Maybe you are lying in bed, late at night, staring up at the dark ceiling, while the rest of the world sleeps, your mind racing through a relentless catalog of worries. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, as you hear these words, I am already there with you. I know the exact rhythm of your breathing, and I know how shallow it has become. I see the tension carried in your neck, the way you clench your jaw, and the deep, profound weariness that has settled into your bones. You are tired, my child. You are so incredibly tired. And I am not simply talking about the kind of physical fatigue that a long weekend or a good night of sleep can easily cure. I am speaking of a profound, lingering exhaustion of the soul. It is the deep weariness that comes from running a race with no finish line, the draining sensation of trying to hold your entire world together with your own two hands. I watch you as you wake up morning after morning, already feeling as though you are falling behind, before your feet even touch the floor. You step into the rushing current of your life, immediately swept away by the fierce demands of the day. There are schedules to maintain, deadlines to meet, people who depend on you for their own survival and happiness. You are constantly absorbing the friction of the world around you. You pour your energy into your family, your friendships, your work, and the endless looping responsibilities that never seem to pause. You have become a master at pushing your own needs to the absolute margins of your existence, convincing yourself that if you just work a little harder, run a little faster, and stretch yourself a little thinner, you will finally reach a place of peace. But that elusive peace never seems to arrive, does it? The finish line keeps moving. The demands only grow louder. And in the quiet moments between the noise, when the mask slips and there is no one left to perform for you, feel the crushing weight of a hidden anxiety that you barely have the energy to name. You carry this anxiety so quietly, keeping it safely tucked away where no one else can see it. You smile when you are expected to smile. You offer strength and encouragement to the people around you, often giving away the very last drops of comfort you possess, leaving your own cup entirely empty. I see the moments when you retreat to the bathroom just to take a single shaky breath in private. I see the tears you hold back because you believe you do not have the luxury of falling apart. You have convinced yourself that you must be the strong one, the capable one, the one who does not crack under pressure. But my child, I see the cracks. I see the fraying edges of your spirit. And I want you to know, with absolute certainty, that there is no judgment in my eyes as I look upon you. None at all. I am not watching you from a distance, with a critical gaze, taking notes on your failures, or shaking my head at your struggles. I look at you with the profound, overwhelming compassion of a father who deeply loves his child. I see how hard you are trying. I see the purity of your intentions and the genuine love that drives your endless striving. I see it all, and my heart overflows with tenderness toward you. Because I see how deeply you are hurting, I am extending a gentle, simple invitation to you right now. I am not asking you to climb a mountain. I am not demanding a long, complicated theological prayer, and I'm not asking you to somehow fix your life before you approach me. I'm simply asking you for 5 minutes. Give me just 5 minutes of your time. In the grand, sweeping narrative of your busy day, 5 minutes is barely a whisper, yet it is exactly what you need to begin breathing again. I am inviting you to step off the relentless treadmill of your daily life and sit down beside me. Just 5 minutes where you do not have to produce anything. 5 minutes where you do not have to protect anyone, solve any crisis, or untangle any complicated mess. 5 minutes where you can simply exist fully known and perfectly loved in my presence. Think about where your time usually goes. You give hours of your day to the glowing screens of your devices, endlessly scrolling through the curated lives of strangers, absorbing the noise, the outrage, and the frantic energy of a world that is spinning out of control. You give countless evenings to rehearsing conversations that have already happened, turning over past regrets in your mind until they wear a groove into your spirit. You surrender your precious mornings to anxious forecasting, trying to predict and manage every possible disaster that might occur in the future. You give so much of your finite, beautiful time to distractions that leave you feeling more hollow than when you began. You feed your mind with the loud, chaotic diet of the world, yet you remain spiritually starved. You are wandering through a desert of busyness, dying of thirst, while desperately trying to drink from empty wells. You long for comfort, for a sense of grounding, for a quiet reassurance that everything is going to be all right, but you are searching for it in the very things that are draining you dry. I offer you living water, yet you hesitate to stop running long enough to take a single sip. This is the great struggle of the human heart. I know why it is so difficult for you to accept this simple invitation. I know why the thought of giving me just 5 uninterrupted minutes actually feels frightening to you. It is because you have forgotten how to be still. Your mind has become so accustomed to the frantic pace of your life that silence feels alarming. You are afraid that if you finally stop moving, if you finally let out that long, ragged breath you have been holding in your chest for months, everything you have been carefully balancing will instantly shatter. You believe that your constant motion is the only thing keeping your world from collapsing. You have confused your frantic busyness with safety and your endless striving with security. You struggle to trust me enough to simply stop. You wonder, if I pause, who will carry the load? If I take 5 minutes to breathe, what will fall through the cracks? The noise of your life has become a strange sort of comfort to you, a familiar chaotic hum that drowns out the deeper questions echoing in your soul. To step away from that noise means you must face the quiet, and in the quiet, you must face your own vulnerability. It means admitting that you are entirely exhausted and that your own strength is no longer enough to sustain you. That is a terrifying admission for a heart that has been taught to rely strictly on itself. But my precious child, your own strength was never meant to be your savior. I am gently asking you to lower your heavy armor just for these next few moments. You do not need to defend yourself here. You do not need to prove your worth to me by listing the tasks you have accomplished today. Let the world continue to spin wildly outside your door. Let the emails sit unread. Let the endless to-do lists wait on the counter. The world will not end because you chose to sit with your Creator for a fraction of an hour. Allow the heavy weariness you feel to become the very thing that finally drives you into my arms, rather than the thing that keeps you running away. Feel the rhythm of your heart begin to slow. Listen to the sound of my voice as it cuts through the dense fog of your anxiety. I am the resting place you have been desperately searching for. I am the quiet harbor in the midst of your raging storm. I am not here to add another heavy burden to your already overloaded shoulders. I am here to take the weight away. Do not let the enemy convince you that you are too busy for the very peace that will save your life. You have tried to navigate this heavy, beautiful, overwhelming life on your own terms for long enough. You have given the world your absolute best efforts, and it has left you depleted, hollow, and yearning for a relief you cannot manufacture with your own 2 hands. So take this breath with me now. Let your defenses gently fall to the ground. Let the noise fade into the background. Step away from the frantic rush, the demanding voices, and the endless motion. Give me these 5 minutes, completely and entirely. As you begin to sit in this new, uncomfortable stillness, I want you to look closely at the heavy load you have been so desperately trying to carry all by yourself. We need to look at the tight grip you have on your life and the heavy, exhausting illusion you have been carrying, the illusion that it is entirely up to you to control what happens next. Look at your hands. My child, notice how tightly your fingers are curled inward, holding on to every detail, every outcome, every unwritten chapter of tomorrow. You have convinced yourself that if you relax your grip for even a single second, the delicate glass of your life will shatter into 1,000 pieces. You believe that your constant vigilance is the only thing standing between your loved ones and disaster. You carry the fear of failure like a heavy coat in the middle of summer, suffocating yourself under its unnatural weight. You spend your waking hours mapping out every possible catastrophe, meticulously planning your responses to storms that have not even formed. I see how you lie awake, wrestling with financial hardship, worrying over family conflict, and trying to calculate exactly how you will survive the coming days. You are trying to be the author, the defender, and the provider, all at once. But you were never meant to carry the weight of the world on your fragile shoulders. This anxious pursuit of self-reliance has become your default state of existence. You have been taught by a broken world that independence is the ultimate goal, that asking for help is a sign of weakness, and that true safety is only found in what you can personally manage. But this is a heavy, exhausting illusion. It is a mirage that keeps you wandering, always chasing a finish line of stability that you can never quite cross. You believe that if you can just earn enough, secure the right job, fix the broken relationships around you, and manage everyone's emotions, you will finally experience peace. You think peace is a destination you can build with your own hands. But look at the toll this frantic building has taken on your spirit. You are emotionally depleted. You battle an intense loneliness, even when standing in a crowded room, because no one else can hear the constant deafening roar of responsibility echoing inside your mind. My child, your anxiety is not a profound personal failure. It is not a sign that you are broken beyond repair, nor does it mean you lack faith. Your anxiety is simply a beautifully designed alarm bell, a warning system built into your soul, telling you that your trust has been placed in the wrong hands. It is the natural consequence of a finite creature attempting to carry an infinite burden. You are trying to do my job. I watch you exhaust yourself, trying to predict the unpredictable and control the uncontrollable. You pour your energy into shielding your loved ones from disappointment, trying to guarantee outcomes that are far beyond your reach. And when things inevitably slip through your fingers, you punish yourself with shame. You tell yourself that if you were smarter or stronger, you would not struggle with this fear. But the truth, the quiet, liberating truth, I want you to hear in this stillness, is that your strength has strict limitations, and those limitations are not flaws. They are intentional. I designed you to need me. I created you to walk in a daily dependent relationship with your Creator. The emptiness you feel, that deep weariness that sleep cannot cure, is the hollow space left behind when you try to replace my divine provision with your own effort. You were created to rely on my grace and mercy, not to generate your own salvation every morning. When you desperately cling to the illusion of worldly control, you are unknowingly building a fortress that keeps my peace locked outside. You are standing guard at the gate of your own heart, completely blocking the very comfort I'm trying to bring you during hardship. Think about the physical sensation of holding something heavy at arm's length. For the first few minutes, you can manage it. Your muscles flex, your determination holds, and you feel capable. But as time passes, the weight multiplies. Your arms tremble. The pain sets in. Eventually, the very thing you are trying to hold up becomes a source of agony, and your entire body aches for release. This is what you have been doing with your life. You have been holding your career, your family, your reputation, and your future at arm's length, refusing to let them rest upon the solid ground of my sovereignty. You are shaking under the effort burning through your emotional reserves, and I am standing right beside you, gently whispering, asking you to let it go. I am asking you to surrender. I know that surrender feels like a terrifying freefall. To a heart that has survived by staying entirely in control, surrender sounds like an invitation to defeat. You equate letting go with giving up. But in my kingdom, surrender is not defeat. It is the absolute beginning of victory. It is the exact moment you stop fighting a battle you were never equipped to win. As long as you are fiercely gripping the steering wheel of your life, you are declaring that your limited, fear-driven vision is somehow safer than my infinite, perfect, and unfailing love. And yet, despite your resistance, I remain patient. I do not pry your fingers open by force or angrily rip the control away from you. Instead, I wait. I sit with you in the ache of your weariness, inviting you to discover the profound strength that comes from true humility. For just these 5 minutes, I am asking you to loosen your grip. I am not asking you to solve the massive problems waiting for you tomorrow. I'm only asking you to stop trying to solve them right now. Allow yourself to feel the beautiful vulnerability of not knowing the answer. You do not have to know how the story ends in order to rest in the middle of it. I am the author, and I hold the final page. You are merely asked to walk the current chapter with me. When you obsess over the future, you project your fragile human limitations onto tomorrow, forgetting that my grace is newly poured out every single morning. I do not give you the strength for tomorrow's battles today. I give you exactly what you need for this present moment. Right now, you do not need strength to fight. You need the courage to rest. Let the reality of your own limitations wash over you, not as a wave of defeat, but as a refreshing tide of relief. It is okay that you cannot fix everything. It is okay that you do not have all the answers. Acknowledge the deep ache of your own inadequacy and stop hiding it behind a mask of competence. Bring your exhaustion to me. Bring your fear of failure, your hidden bitterness, and your persistent doubt. Lay them down like heavy stones on the side of the road. You have carried them far enough. They have bruised your shoulders and bent your spine, keeping your eyes fixed firmly on the dirt beneath your feet, instead of the bright horizon of my promises. As you sit here actively practicing this surrender, feel the subtle shift in your spirit. The anxiety that has driven you for so long is slowly losing its sharp edge. It is being exposed for the liar that it is. Control is a myth. You never truly had it to begin with. All you ever had was the exhausting effort of pretending. And the moment you finally admit that you are completely dependent upon me, the massive dam holding back, my peace begins to crack. The living water you have been thirsting for can only flow into hands that are open and empty. If your hands are clenched tightly around your own plans, timelines, and desperate strategies for survival, you cannot receive what I am trying to hand you. I am asking you to trust me. Look at the vast expanse of your life with all of its moving pieces, delicate relationships, and profound uncertainties, and confidently hand the entire messy puzzle over to me. I know the exact number of hairs on your head. I know the deepest, most silent desires of your heart. Do you truly believe that I would abandon you in the middle of your story? You have been running yourself into the ground, trying to secure a future that is already safely held in my hands. You have been striving to earn a security that I have already freely provided. Before you take another step on that exhausting treadmill, I want you to realize the sheer magnitude of what I have already done for you. I have not held anything back from you, my child. When you look at the foundation of your faith, when you truly pause to consider the depth of my eternal love, I want you to see the absolute fullness of what has already been given. I did not offer you a fraction of my affection or a temporary solution to your pain. I gave you my very best. I gave you my son. I watched him step down from the perfect, unbroken peace of heaven into the chaotic, dusty, and broken reality of your world. He walked the same heavy earth that you walk. He felt the sting of rejection, the ache of physical exhaustion, and the crushing weight of sorrow, all so that you would never have to experience a single moment of your life truly alone. He willingly embraced the cross, absorbing every ounce of darkness, fear, and separation, so that the bridge between us could be permanently rebuilt. That was not a casual offering. It was the greatest act of love this universe has ever known, a love defined by unimaginable sacrifice, unconditional grace, and infinite mercy. And my giving did not end at the cross. I did not secure your salvation and then step back into the heavens, leaving you to figure out the rest of your journey in isolation. I have given you my constant abiding presence. I placed my very spirit inside of you, a quiet, guiding light, meant to illuminate your darkest nights and comfort your most overwhelming fears. Every morning that you open your eyes, you are met with my unwavering grace, a fresh supply of mercy that requires absolutely nothing from you to earn it. I have surrounded you with evidence of my care, weaving protection and provision into the ordinary moments of your daily life. I have offered you complete access to my throne, inviting you to speak directly to the Creator of the stars whenever your heart feels heavy. I have given you everything that is beautiful, everything that is holy, and everything that is truly lasting. I have given you my very best. Yet when I gently tap on the door of your heart and ask for just 5 minutes of your day, I see the hesitation wash over you. I see your eyes dart toward the clock. I feel the sudden tightening in your chest as you mentally calculate whether you can afford to spare a fraction of an hour just to sit in silence with me. You willingly hand over entire evenings to mindless entertainment, pouring your finite energy into glowing screens and the hollow noise of a world that does not know your name. You freely give hours to worry, turning over worst-case scenarios in your mind until your soul is battered and exhausted. You give your absolute best energy to your career, your chores, and the endless pursuit of an artificial stability. But when the Creator who breathed life into your lungs asks for just 5 minutes of your undivided attention, you suddenly feel as though you have nothing left to give. You tell yourself that you are simply too busy to stop. Please listen carefully to the tone of my voice right now. There is no anger in these words. There is not a single trace of frustration, and I am not speaking to you out of disappointment. I do not look at your hesitation and feel the need to punish you. What I feel is the gentle, quiet heartbreak of a father who loves his child with an everlasting love, yet watches that child constantly run past his open arms in search of a lesser comfort. I ache for you. I long for your attention, not because I am lonely or insecure, but because I know that I am the only source of the true peace you are so desperately striving to find. When you withhold your time from me, you are not depriving me of anything I need. You are starving your own spirit. You are walking past a banquet I have prepared specifically for you, choosing instead to sustain yourself on the dry crumbs of worldly approval and temporary distractions. I want you to feel a gentle shift in your perspective right now. Let a profound sense of awe and quiet humility settle over your racing thoughts. Consider the sheer magnitude of the exchange I'm offering you. The maker of the heavens and the earth, the one who holds the oceans in the palm of his hand and calls every star by its specific name, is actively seeking your company. I gave you eternity, and I am merely asking for 5 minutes of your Tuesday morning, your Thursday afternoon, or your Sunday night. When you truly grasp the eternal value of the time you are withholding, the excuses you have built begin to crumble like sand. You begin to realize that busyness is not a badge of honor. It is a thief that is quietly stealing away your most sacred moments. These 5 minutes are not a chore to be checked off your endless list. They are a profound privilege, a divine appointment, where the finite meets the infinite. Perhaps part of your hesitation comes from a deep misunderstanding of what I am actually asking of you. The enemy has convinced you that sitting with me requires a grand, flawless performance. You look at your scattered thoughts, your messy life, and your tired body, and you believe you must clean yourself up before you can enter my presence. You think I am demanding hours of perfect, uninterrupted theological study. You assume that if you cannot pray with eloquent words, if you cannot maintain absolute focus, or if you do not understand complex biblical doctrines, then your time with me is somehow invalid. My precious child, nothing could be further from the truth. I am not an academic instructor demanding a perfect test score. I am a father waiting for his child to simply come home and rest. I do not need your polish. I do not need your profound theological insights. I just want your willing heart. A willing heart is the only requirement for entry into my peace. If your 5 minutes consist entirely of you sitting on the edge of your bed, tears quietly streaming down your face, with no words spoken at all, that is a beautiful, complete prayer. If your 5 minutes are spent simply whispering my name over and over again, while you sit in your parked car, letting the silence wrap around you, like a warm blanket, that is exactly what I desire. I do not care if your thoughts occasionally drift, or if you bring me your confusion, your frustration, and your weariness. I simply want you, all of you, the messy, exhausted, overwhelmed version of you that the rest of the world does not get to see. I gave my very best so that you would never have to pretend in front of me. This realization should not bring you condemnation. Let it bring you overwhelming relief. Let it break through the thick walls of self-reliance you have constructed. As the truth of my immense sacrifice washes over you, allow it to soften the hardened edges of your heart. See the cross. See the empty tomb. See the lengths to which I have gone just to be near you, to rescue you, and to offer you a love that the world can never replicate or destroy. If I was willing to cross the universe and conquer death itself to save you, why do you still hesitate to cross the room and sit in quiet stillness with me? Why do you guard your time so fiercely against the only one who can multiply your strengths? You are beginning to see the incredible imbalance of our relationship, and I know exactly what that realization stirs up inside of you. As you sit here finally comprehending the depth of my devotion compared to the smallness of your daily surrender, a familiar shadow tries to creep into your mind. You suddenly feel the sharp, familiar sting of your own inadequacy. You look back at the days and months you have spent running away from my presence, and a heavy wave of quiet shame tries to settle over your chest, telling you that you have failed me too many times to be welcomed now. I hear that insidious voice whispering to you in the dark, my child. I hear the cruel, relentless accusations. It hurls against your spirit, trying to convince you that the gap between us has grown far too wide to ever be bridged. It tells you that because you have ignored me for so long, because you have allowed the chaotic busyness of your life to push me to the absolute furthest corners of your mind, you have somehow forfeited your right to sit quietly in my presence today. The enemy wants nothing more than to take the beautiful, genuine humility you are experiencing in this exact moment and twist it into a paralyzing, toxic condemnation. He wants you to believe that your human inconsistency has finally exhausted my divine patience. You look at your dusty Bible sitting unopened on the nightstand, or you remember the hurried, half-hearted prayers you tossed upward as you frantically rushed out the door last week, and you feel a profound, aching unworthiness. You think to yourself, how can I possibly turn to him now? After all this time, I'm simply too flawed, too distracted, and too distant. That quiet, secret shame is a heavy, suffocating stone you have been carrying inside your chest. You wake up with it resting heavily upon you. You walk through your demanding day with it pressing down on your lungs, making every spiritual breath feel laborious, painful, and forced. It is a burden of your own making, forged in the fires of your own guilt. Yet you guard it fiercely, as if it were a necessary and just punishment for your spiritual failures. You have convinced yourself that you must earn your way back into my good graces before you can truly commune with me again. You believe that you need to somehow string together a flawless week of devotion, a perfect sequence of holy choices and uninterrupted focus, just to scrub away the lingering stain of your recent spiritual neglect. And because you are deeply tired, because you are overwhelmed, And because you inevitably stumble, that perfect week never comes, leaving you permanently trapped in a quiet cycle of isolation. You stay away because you feel profoundly guilty, and you feel profoundly guilty because you stay away. But I am speaking to you now to completely and forever dismantle that lie. I want you to lift your eyes away from your own perceived failures and look directly into the face of your Creator. My arms are not crossed in disappointment. My back is not turned towards you in silent protest over your absence. My arms are wide open exactly as they have always been, waiting patiently for the very moment you would choose to stop running and turn your weary heart back toward home. I am the God of unconditional mercy, a staggering infinite mercy that does not expire just because you got caught up in the frantic pace of your worldly survival. Your distance has not diluted a single drop of my love for you. Your inconsistency has not caused my devotion to waver for even a fraction of a second. I do not look at you with the stern, critical gaze of a frustrated taskmaster who feels shortchanged by your lack of attention. I look at you with the fierce, unending compassion of a father who has been deeply missing his beloved child. I want to speak directly to the hidden fear that I am keeping a silent tally of your mistakes. Hear me clearly, my precious child. I do not keep a ledger of your missed prayers. I do not have a record book in heaven where I meticulously log the mornings you chose to sleep in rather than speak to me, or the evenings you collapsed into bed, falling asleep exhausted before saying a single word of thanks. The enemy uses this imaginary, terrifying ledger to keep you drowning in a sea of guilt, but it simply does not exist. My grace is not a fragile accounting system that you can easily bankrupt with your daily human frailties. When you finally pause, when you finally take this quiet breath and turn your attention toward me, I do not greet you with a massive list of demands or a cold recitation of your recent failures. I celebrate you. Heaven rejoices in the exact fraction of a second that you choose to look my way and whisper my name. These 5 minutes you are giving me right now are not meant to be a courtroom where your spiritual negligence is put on trial. They are meant to be a sanctuary of pure healing. This is the designated time and place for you to finally take that heavy, jagged stone of guilt and drop it entirely at my feet. You do not have to carry it for one more second. I am extending a complete and total pardon for the days you forgot me, for the times you relied entirely on your own fading strength, and for the moments you let the frantic noise of the world drown out my steady voice. Forgiveness is not something you have to slowly, painfully earn back through grueling, exhausting acts of penance. It is a massive, unearned gift that is already yours, freely offered, and permanently secured by the blood of my Son. Accept it right now. Breathe it in deeply. Let the absolute reality of total forgiveness wash over the deepest, most hidden corners of your aching soul. As you consciously choose to accept this forgiveness, feel the heavy iron chains of spiritual condemnation breaking and falling away from your tired wrists. You are being set completely free from the exhausting, impossible requirement to be perfect before you approach my throne. Notice the profound, rushing wave of relief that is washing over you in this very moment. The suffocating pressure is finally gone. The rigid, unforgiving expectations you placed upon yourself have evaporated in the glorious warmth of my grace. You are allowed to be entirely human, entirely messy, and entirely loved, all at the exact same time. You do not have to fix your broken spiritual life before you come to me. You simply come to me in your brokenness so that I can heal your spirit. Feel the immense, beautiful lightness taking root in your chest as the invisible barriers between us are completely dismantled. There is nothing standing between you and my unfailing love anymore. The veil is torn, the path is entirely clear, and the door to my presence is standing wide open, with the heavy, suffocating blanket of shame finally lifted from your shoulders. Allow the beautiful, radiant light of profound gratitude to gently take its place. Let your weary heart swell with the joyous, undeniable realization that you are cherished beyond all human comprehension. You have brought me your brokenness, your deep exhaustion, and your quiet neglect. And in return, I have completely wrapped you in a flawless robe of absolute righteousness. You are not a disappointment to me, my child. You are the absolute joy of my heart, the masterpiece of my creation. Let that powerful truth settle deep into your weary bones. Let it entirely replace the anxious vibration that has been echoing in your mind for so long. You are completely forgiven. You are washed completely clean. You are fully and beautifully restored in my sight. The past days of wandering, the lonely weeks of silence, the exhausting months of striving on your own, they are all washed away in the vast, boundless, bottomless ocean of my mercy. Now in this pure and quiet space we have carefully created together, there is no more looking backward over your shoulder in fear. There is no more obsessing over the times you fell short, or the moments you foolishly chose the approval of the world over the comfort of my presence. There is only this sacred, beautiful present moment, this quiet, unbroken breath, where we are entirely connected, heart to heart. By choosing to let go of your hidden guilt, you have completely emptied your hands of the past, leaving them open, empty, and ready to receive the immense supernatural comfort I am preparing to pour into them. The great barrier of self-condemnation has been permanently shattered, beautifully replaced by an unbreakable eternal bond of divine love and complete acceptance. Because you are no longer hiding in the dark shadows of shame, your spirit is finally clear enough and light enough to truly listen. The massive defensive walls have come down. Your heart is soft, highly receptive, and fully anchored in the absolute certainty of my unshakable grace. You are perfectly positioned to hear what I have been trying to tell you all along. But to hear my gentle voice clearly, you must first recognize the sheer deafening volume of the world you just stepped out of, and you must understand how fiercely it has been fighting to keep you deaf to my comfort. Now that your heavy guilt is gone, we can finally address the relentless noise that has been holding your mind hostage. The world you live in is staggeringly, relentlessly loud. From the exact moment you open your eyes in the morning to the second you finally collapse into bed at night, you are bombarded by a chaotic symphony of demands. Your days are measured by the persistent vibration of notifications, the harsh glow of screens, and the endless tide of urgent deadlines that always seem to multiply the moment you cross one off your list. You are constantly absorbing a stream of worldly anxieties, breaking news that thrives on your fear, social pressures that dictate how you should live, and the deafening expectations of everyone around you. This noise is not just a background hum. It is a designed, aggressive assault on your peace. It trains your mind to operate in a permanent state of emergency. It demands that you divide your attention into 100 fragile fragments, leaving you incapable of truly focusing on the quiet stillness of your own soul. The world insists everything is a crisis, and if you do not immediately react, you will inevitably fall behind. This constant blaring noise is exactly what drowns out my peace. It is the dense fog that keeps you wandering in circles, reacting to every sharp alarm, while completely missing the steady compass I have placed inside you. You have been conditioned to believe that the loudest voice in the room is the most important one. You assume if a problem is screaming for your attention, it must be the priority. But my child, I do not operate in the chaos, and I rarely shout over the deafening roar of your worldly distractions. I do not compete with the blaring sirens of your daily panic. If you are waiting for me to use a megaphone to interrupt your frantic running, you will likely keep running until you collapse. Instead, I wait for you. I stand patiently in the quiet spaces you so rarely visit, holding the profound clarity you are desperately searching for, waiting for you to simply stop moving long enough to notice I am there. I speak in a gentle, quiet whisper. There is a profound, intentional reason for this. A loud voice commands you from a distance demanding compliance out of fear or urgency. But a whisper requires something entirely different. A whisper requires intimacy. To hear a whisper, you must stop what you are doing. You must cease your frantic pacing, quiet your own racing thoughts, and lean in closely to the one who is speaking. A whisper is an invitation to draw near, to close the gap between us, and to rest your weary head against my chest. When I speak to you in a still small voice, I am inviting you out of the turbulent storm and into the absolute safety of my shelter. But as long as you allow the world to keep the volume of your life turned up to its maximum capacity, my whisper will remain completely lost to you, buried underneath the frantic demands of your day. By simply sitting here in this moment, by intentionally claiming these 5 minutes of deliberate silence, you are doing something incredibly powerful. You are engaging in a profound act of spiritual rebellion. You are actively protesting against a world that demands your constant panic and your perpetual motion. Society tells you that your worth is measured entirely by your productivity, by how fast you can respond, and by how much weight you can carry without breaking. But right now, in this quiet stillness, you are declaring that your soul is not for sale to the highest bidder of urgency. You are boldly refusing to let the chaos dictate the rhythm of your heart. This quiet pause is your way of telling the relentless noise that it does not have the final authority over your life. You are carving out a sacred sanctuary in the very middle of your busy week. This requires a profound shift in your vision. It requires you to practice the beautiful biblical principle of fixing your eyes on the unseen, rather than being captivated by the temporary things you can see all around you. Everything that is screaming for your attention right now, the unopened emails, the financial pressures, the social obligations, is temporary. It is all fleeting. It will pass away like dust in the wind. But the things that are unseen, my love for you, the eternal weight of your soul, the unshakable peace I am offering, and the spiritual strength we are building together, these things will last forever. When you fix your eyes on the unseen, the massive giants of your daily life suddenly begin to shrink to their proper, manageable size. The urgent deadlines lose their terrifying grip on your throat, replaced by the solitary, beautiful desire to simply be aligned with my will. Allow that deep spiritual craving for silence to wash over you right now. For so long you have been afraid of the quiet, because the quiet is where your suppressed anxieties usually surface. But you do not need to fear the silence anymore, because you are no longer sitting in it alone. As the harsh, chaotic noise of the world begins to fade into the distance, notice what happens to the atmosphere around you. The frantic energy that usually hums beneath your skin is slowly beginning to dissipate. The urgent need to fix, manage, and control is gently dissolving into the stillness. You are entering into a state of deep, quiet focus, a rare and precious sanctuary, where the only thing that truly matters is the connection between your heart and mine. Breathe in this silence. Let it fill your lungs and settle your racing pulse. This is not the empty, isolating silence of loneliness. It is the thick, rich, comforting silence of my divine presence. I am here. I am closer to you right now than the very breath in your lungs. You can feel the atmosphere in the room shifting, growing infinitely heavier with the weight of my absolute peace. The frantic vibrations of the world cannot penetrate this sacred space we have established together. You are entirely safe here. There are no demands being placed upon you in this moment. There are no expectations you must strive to meet, no performances you must carefully maintain, and no critical eyes judging your weariness. There is only my perfect love surrounding you, completely pressing back the darkness and wrapping you in an unshakable eternal comfort. As you sit enveloped in this newfound quiet, a beautiful sudden clarity is beginning to dawn in your mind. The thick fog is lifting, and you are starting to see the stark difference between what the world tells you is important and what actually matters in the light of eternity. You are realizing that the countless hours you have spent agonizing over circumstances beyond your control have not added a single ounce of peace to your life. You are recognizing that your soul was never designed to process the endless tragedies of a global news cycle, nor was it built to carry the crushing weight of hundreds of shallow digital relationships. You were created for a deep, abiding, quiet intimacy with your Creator. You were made to walk with me in the cool of the day, listening to my voice and trusting entirely in my provision. The craving you are feeling right now, this intense, almost physical thirst for a slower, quieter, more grounded existence, is not a sign of weakness. It is the deepest, most authentic part of your spirit, waking up and desperately crying out for its true home. It is your soul, recognizing the voice of its shepherd and longing to follow it away from the barren, noisy wastelands of modern life and into the green pastures of my rest. Do not suppress this craving. Lean into it. Let the absolute beauty of this quiet focus wash away the lingering residue of your frantic morning. Let it completely recalibrate the internal compass of your heart, pointing you directly back to the true north of my unending grace. You have successfully stepped out of the raging current. My child, you have rebelled against the noise, you have fixed your eyes upon the unseen, and you have finally tuned your ear to the frequency of my gentle whisper. You are completely enveloped in my comforting presence, and the frantic grip of the world has been broken for these precious 5 minutes. But now that the room is perfectly quiet, now that your mind has slowed, and your heart is fully attentive to my voice, we must carefully address the heavy baggage you dragged into this room with you. We must look at the specific crushing burdens you are still secretly clutching in your exhausted hands. Look down at your hands. My precious child, look at how fiercely your fingers are curled inward, white-knuckled and trembling from the sheer effort of holding everything together. Even here in the safety of my presence, you are still gripping the broken fragments of your life as if letting them go would cause the entire world to collapse. You have carried these heavy stones for so long that your muscles have forgotten how to relax. But in this quiet sanctuary, I am inviting you to do the one thing that terrifies you the most yet, is the only thing that will save you. I am asking you to surrender. I am asking you to actively hand over the exact specific fears you have been hoarding in the darkest corners of your mind. I know intimately what you are holding. I see the crushing weight of financial hardship that wakes you up in a cold sweat, making you wonder how you will stretch what little you have to cover the mounting demands. I see the deep family conflict that you carry silently, the fractured relationships that bring you to tears when no one else is watching. I know the lingering anxiety concerning your health, the fearful whispers of illness that threaten to steal your joy. And above all, I see your paralyzing dread of the unknown future. You have been trying to map out a wilderness you have never walked, frantically preparing for disasters before they arrive. You are exhausted because you are trying to be the sovereign ruler of a tomorrow that does not yet exist. You have spent an impossible amount of energy pretending to be strong. You have worn a mask of unshakable competence for your family and your friends. You have convinced yourself that if you admit how terrified you truly are, you will let everyone down. But here in this sacred stillness, the performance must end. It is completely safe to be weak with me. It is safe to admit that you do not have the answers, that you are profoundly tired, and that the mountain in front of you is entirely too steep to climb alone. I do not need you to be the hero of this story. I do not need you to have perfectly unwavering faith before you can receive my help. Surrender is not a declaration of your failure. It is a beautiful, humble acknowledgement of your human limitations. I want you to physically imagine opening your hands right now. Take a deep, deliberate breath and slowly uncurl your fingers one by one. It will feel unnatural at first because you are so accustomed to the fierce grip of self-reliance. But as you release that grip, I want you to actively transfer those heavy burdens directly into my waiting hands. Hand over the desperate panic about your finances. Give me the bitter sting of that broken friendship and the messy, unresolved conflicts within your home. Place your physical pain, your medical uncertainties, and your deepest insecurities entirely into my care. Do not simply set them down on the ground to be picked up again the moment you leave this quiet space. Press them firmly into my palms, and let me completely take their weight from your weary shoulders. As you release these crushing anxieties, a profound spiritual exchange begins to take place. You are stepping into the beautiful reality of my biblical promise. You are trading your heavy, suffocating yoke for a yoke that is remarkably easy and a burden that is brilliantly light. You have been dragging a massive cart filled with the heavy stones of worldly expectation, fear, and regret. I am stepping into the harness beside you, but I am not asking you to pull the weight anymore. I am completely lifting the entire load onto myself. The moment you truly stop pretending to be strong enough to save yourself is the exact moment my supernatural strength is made entirely perfect in your weakness. You are no longer merely listening to my voice. You are actively participating in the greatest transaction your soul will ever make. I want to assure you, with absolute unwavering certainty, that I am strong enough to carry what is currently crushing you. You look at your problems and see massive, immovable obstacles. You look at your debt, your fractured marriage, or your prodigal child, and you feel a sense of utter despair because your human hands cannot fix them. I completely validate the reality of your pain. My child, I do not minimize your grief, and I do not dismiss your tears as an overreaction. Your suffering is deeply real to me, and I catch every single tear you cry in the darkest hours of the night. But while your pain is incredibly real, your fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of my absolute power. The burdens that are pushing you to the absolute breaking point are entirely weightless in my hands. I am the Creator who spoke the swirling galaxies into existence, who sets the boundaries for the raging oceans, and who holds the very fabric of the universe together with a single thought. Do you truly believe that the God who commands the morning sun to rise is somehow overwhelmed by the details of your Tuesday afternoon? Do you think the financial hardship you are facing, or the family conflict that breaks your heart, is too complex for me to unravel? I have perfectly orchestrated the healing of nations, and I am equally invested in the gentle, careful restoration of your own tired heart. When you surrender your circumstances to me, you are placing them in the only hands capable of bringing true resurrection. Allow the reality of my infinite power to completely overshadow the frantic screaming of your current crisis. As you consciously let go of your need to control the outcome, notice the profound, sweeping vulnerability that washes over you. It is a terrifying sensation for a heart that is used to managing its own survival, but it is immediately followed by a wave of overwhelming divine comfort. You are completely exposed, completely bare, and yet you have never been more intensely protected. The enemy wants you to believe that dropping your defenses will leave you open to destruction, but the exact opposite is true. When you finally drop the heavy, fragile shield of your own self-reliance, you are instantly surrounded by the impenetrable fortress of my perfect grace. Breathe deeply into this new space. Feel the physical tension draining from your neck, your shoulders, and your jaw. The exhaustion that has plagued you for months is beginning to lift, not because your external circumstances have instantly changed, but because you are no longer the one responsible for holding the sky in place. You are allowed to be small. You're allowed to be the child securely held in the powerful, loving arms of a Father who has never once dropped you. The spiritual release you are experiencing right now is the breaking of heavy, invisible chains. You are being liberated from the cruel, demanding tyranny of worldly control, stepping freely into the spacious, brilliant light of absolute trust. As these specific fears leave your trembling hands and settle permanently into mine, your spirit is left beautifully, undeniably lighter. The dense, suffocating fog of panic has evaporated, leaving your heart remarkably open and highly receptive to the quiet work I am doing within you. You have traded your overwhelming despair for a profound, anchoring peace. You have survived the terrifying act of letting go, and you have discovered that my grace is infinitely strong enough to catch you. Now that your hands are finally empty, now that your spirit is deeply open and resting in the absolute certainty of my power, we must gently turn our attention toward the days ahead. Because while you have surrendered the burden, The answer you are waiting for may not arrive by tomorrow morning, and you must learn the beautiful secret of what happens in the silent spaces between your prayer and my provision. You have laid your heavy burdens down, my child, and for that, I am deeply proud of your courageous surrender. But I also know the quiet, immediate expectation that follows such a profound release. Your human heart, so accustomed to the frantic speed of the world, naturally assumes that the moment you hand the problem to me, the sky will instantly clear and the massive walls will immediately crumble. You expect the miraculous rescue to manifest before you even stand up from this quiet place of prayer. And when the morning arrives and the difficult circumstances of your life look exactly the same as they did yesterday, a cold, familiar frustration tries to creep back into your chest. You wonder if I truly heard you. You wonder if your surrender was somehow flawed, or if your faith simply was not strong enough to trigger the instant breakthrough you so desperately crave. I want to gently validate that specific piercing ache. It is incredibly difficult to sit in the tension of an unresolved story. It is painful to bring your deepest wounds, your fractured family conflicts, and your financial hardships to my feet, only to be met with what feels like a lingering silence. Your world has trained you to demand instant fixes. You are taught that if a solution is not immediate, the system is broken. You carry devices in your pocket that answer your questions in a fraction of a second, and you project that same restless expectation onto the creator of the universe. You want me to be a god of quick exits, rapidly teleporting you out of the uncomfortable valleys so you can quickly stand on the victorious mountaintops. You long for an instantaneous erasure of your pain, desperately seeking the finish line before you have even walked the path. But my precious child, I am not a god of cheap instantaneous magic. I am a father of profound, enduring transformation. I want you to hear this truth and let it firmly anchor your restless spirit. My delay is never a denial. The space between your desperate prayer and my visible provision is not a void of divine absence. When you do not immediately see the answer, the enemy loves to whisper that I have abandoned you, or that you are simply not important enough to warrant my urgent attention. He uses the waiting period to breed cynicism, bitterness, and doubt in your exhausted mind. But silence does not mean I am inactive. I am working precisely in the shadows, moving monumental pieces of your story into place, orchestrating details far beyond your limited human vision. There is a magnificent hidden beauty in waiting faithfully, if only you will allow yourself to see it. The pause that frustrates you so deeply is not a punishment. It is a sacred incubator. It is exactly here in the quiet, uncomfortable middle of your unresolved problems that your true character is being masterfully shaped. If I were to instantly rescue you from every hardship the second you cried out, your faith would remain shallow and fragile, entirely dependent on your immediate comfort, rather than on my enduring character. You would only know me as a rescuer, but you would never deeply know me as a sustainer. You would never learn how to draw from the deep wells of my grace when the surface waters of your life run completely dry. Think of the most precious metals buried deep within the earth. They are not formed in the gentle sunlight. They are forged in the dark under crushing pressure and intense, sustained heat. Your faith is infinitely more valuable than gold, and it requires the refining fire of the waiting room to burn away the impurities of your self-reliance and your worldly impatience. When you are forced to wait, your desperate reliance on your own strength is slowly starved, while your absolute dependence on my grace is beautifully nourished. The waiting period systematically strips away your illusions of control, leaving you with nothing but the raw, unshakable truth that I am your only solid ground. This purification process is not meant to break you, but to completely remake you into a vessel capable of holding eternity. I see the tears you have cried in the hidden hours of the night, pleading for an end to the uncertainty. I see how you have paced the floor, worn down by the agonizing silence of an unanswered prayer. I do not take your endurance lightly, my child, but I also see the incredible spiritual maturity that is taking root beneath the soil of your suffering. Every day that you choose to wake up and trust me, even when the circumstances remain fiercely difficult, your spiritual roots are driving deeper into the bedrock of my love. You are developing a resilient, enduring trust that cannot be shaken by the shifting winds of your temporary reality. This level of profound spiritual grit cannot be downloaded instantly. It can only be cultivated slowly, deliberately, in the quiet spaces of the unknown. Let this revelation shift the emotional current within your weary chest. I want to move you away from that desperate, frantic plea for a quick exit. Stop staring obsessively at the locked door, rattling the handle, demanding that it swing open on your preferred timeline. Instead, turn around and look at me, sitting right here in the hallway with you. The present moment, with all of its uncomfortable tension and unresolved grief, is exactly where I am meeting you. When you learn to sit quietly with me in the middle of the mess, without demanding that I immediately clean it up, you step into a completely new dimension of spiritual freedom. You move from the anxious panic of a spiritual infant to the calm, steady acceptance of a spiritually mature child who implicitly trusts their father's heart. This is the gentle transition from worldly frustration to enduring spiritual trust. It is the realization that my presence is the actual prize, not just the physical miracle you are waiting for. If you can learn to find deep, satisfying joy in my company while the storm is still raging around you, the storm completely loses its terrifying power over your mind. You begin to realize that the waiting room is not a useless detour on the way to your actual life. It is your life, and it is rich with profound purpose. I am actively preparing you for the blessing you have asked, for ensuring that when the answer finally arrives, your character is strong enough to carry it without being crushed by the weight of the blessing itself. Often the thing you are desperately praying for requires pieces to move that you cannot possibly comprehend. There are other hearts being softened, other doors being closed, and complex pathways being cleared in the spiritual realm. If I gave you the answer prematurely, it would be incomplete, and it would ultimately fail you. So I ask you to trust the meticulous, careful timing of a Creator who sees the entirety of eternity. I am weaving a tapestry of breathtaking beauty, and right now, you are only looking at the tangled, chaotic threads on the underside of the frame. You see the knots, the messy tangles, and the dark colors of your hardship. But I see the magnificent finished image that is being slowly, perfectly revealed from above. Allow the desperate tension in your shoulders to finally melt into a calm acceptance of this present moment. You do not have to fight the waiting anymore. You do not have to view this delay as an enemy to be defeated or a riddle to be frantically solved. Embrace it as a gentle, quiet teacher. Let it slow your frantic pace and silence the anxious rushing of your blood. Let it draw you into deeper, more honest conversations with me. Conversations that are no longer just frantic lists of requests, but genuine expressions of love, trust, and mutual presence. As you surrender your timeline entirely to me, the agonizing sting of impatience begins to lose its venom, beautifully replaced by a quiet, expectant hope. You are perfectly safe here in the middle space, my child. You are profoundly secure. While the story is still being written, I have not forgotten your prayers, and I have not turned a blind eye to the deep, aching desires of your heart. I am simply doing a far greater work within you than the one you are asking me to do for you. The permanent transformation of your inner world is far more critical to your eternal joy than the temporary immediate alteration of your external circumstances. So rest in this unresolved space, breathing deeply in the rhythm of my grace. Let your spirit mature in the quiet shadows, knowing that even in the profound silence, my hands are tirelessly at work on your behalf. This calm acceptance is the bedrock of true lasting peace. By choosing to sit faithfully in the unknown, you are declaring that I am entirely enough for you exactly as I am, even before the breakthrough comes. You are proving to the heavens that your love for me is not conditional upon a swift rescue. And as this deep, unshakable peace begins to firmly anchor your soul, replacing your former panic with a gentle stillness. We must gently turn our attention toward the very nature of the deliverance you seek, because before you can properly receive the physical rescue you are desperately waiting for, you must understand why this profound internal calm is the absolutely necessary prerequisite. I want to explain a profound spiritual law to you, my child, a beautiful truth that will forever change the way you navigate the difficult seasons of this life. You have been looking out at the massive waves crashing against the fragile hull of your life, desperately crying out for me to change your external circumstances. You want the winds of your financial hardship to instantly die down. You want the turbulent waters of your family conflict to immediately smooth out into a calm, glassy surface. You are focused on the visible storm surrounding you, intensely monitoring the rising water levels, bailing water with your exhausted hands, and wondering why I have not yet spoken to the wind. But while your eyes are anxiously fixed on the chaos outside the boat, my eyes are focused on the raging storm inside your mind. I am far more concerned with the panic gripping your heart than the problems threatening your comfort. Consider what would happen if I were to grant you the massive external rescue you are begging for in this exact second. Imagine if the debt was instantly wiped away, the relationship was suddenly repaired, and all the medical uncertainties completely vanished. On the surface, it sounds like the ultimate deliverance. But if I give a profound miracle to a heart that is still deeply wired for anxiety, a heart that has not learned how to truly rest in my sovereignty, that beautiful miracle quickly becomes a tragedy. It just becomes another worldly thing for you to constantly worry about losing. If your internal foundation is built entirely on the fragile sand of self-reliance, the weight of the blessing will inevitably cause your peace to collapse. If I bless you with financial abundance while your spirit is still bound by the fear of failure, you will spend your nights terrified of losing that wealth. If I restore a broken relationship before your heart has learned to find its ultimate security in me, you will cling to that person with an exhausting, suffocating grip, terrified they might leave you again. A miracle given to an untrusting heart does not produce lasting joy. It merely produces a new set of anxieties. You would simply transfer your frantic nervous energy from your current crisis onto your new blessing. You would still be exhausted, still pacing the floor in the dark. The scenery of your life would change, but the profound weariness of your soul would remain exactly the same. This is why I have established an unbreakable, deeply loving rule for your spiritual growth. My peace must always come before my miracle. Before I change the difficult landscape of your life, I must thoroughly change the landscape of your heart. I am deeply committed to healing the root of your panic, rather than simply putting a temporary bandage over the symptoms. When you finally understand this, the waiting period completely changes its shape. It is no longer a cruel delay. It is a vital preparation. I am expanding the capacity of your heart, so that when the external breakthrough finally arrives, you can hold it with open, grateful hands, rather than a terrified, white-knuckled grip. I am teaching you to anchor your soul to the unchanging reality of my character, rather than shifting worldly circumstances. I want to shift your entire perspective right now. I want to move you away from that desperate, frantic desperation for a physical rescue and awaken a deep, sustaining hunger for internal tranquility. Think of the familiar story of the violent storm on the Sea of Galilee. The waves were aggressively pouring into the small boat, the sky was violently dark, and the seasoned fishermen were absolutely convinced they were going to drown in the chaotic depths. They were completely consumed by the external circumstances, desperately trying to save themselves with limited strength. But where was my son? In the middle of this terrifying crisis, he was asleep on a cushion in the stern. He simply possessed an internal peace that the external winds could not possibly disturb. He knew the absolute sovereignty of his Father. He knew the violent wind did not possess the final authority over his life, and therefore he could rest while the boat was violently rocking. That is exactly the profound, unshakable tranquility I am cultivating inside of you right now. I want you to learn how to sleep peacefully in the boat while the storm still rages all around you. Anyone can feel a sense of peace when the sky is brilliantly blue and the water is perfectly calm. The world offers that fragile temporary comfort every day, but the inner peace I give is entirely different. The peace I am pouring into your spirit defies all human logic. It is a supernatural calm that stands fiercely in the face of financial ruin, medical fear, and deep personal betrayal, and quietly whispers, "I am entirely safe because my Father holds the ocean." The external breakthrough you are desperately praying for is indeed coming. I promise you, with all the authority of heaven, that the winds will eventually cease, and the massive waves will flatten into a quiet calm. I have not abandoned you to the depths, and your story will not end in this chaotic darkness. But the greatest treasure you will ever receive is not the moment the storm stops. The true lasting treasure is discovering that you can experience complete, overwhelming joy while the lightning is still flashing. When you realize that your internal state is no longer dictated by your external struggles, you become spiritually untouchable. The enemy loses his greatest weapon against you because he can no longer use the threat of hardship to steal your joy. Let this massive paradigm shift completely wash over your exhausted mind. You have spent an immense amount of emotional energy fighting your current reality, endlessly arguing with the circumstances and demanding an immediate exit strategy. I am asking you to completely stop fighting. Put down your defenses. Stop desperately trying to bail the freezing water out of the boat with your own fragile hands, and instead, come sit quietly beside me in the stern. Let the bitter wind howl loudly outside. Let the world continue its frantic, chaotic rushing. You do not have to fix the storm right now, because you are finally realizing that the storm simply does not have the power to sink you. You are securely held by the one who created the very water that is currently threatening your life. As you consciously and fully embrace this quiet, profound truth, notice how the intense emotional pressure within your chest begins to beautifully transform. The sharp, jagged edges of your worldly desperation are completely melting away, wonderfully, replaced by a deep, radiant contentment. You are no longer acting as a frantic prisoner to your difficult circumstances. You are a deeply loved, highly protected child, resting securely in the absolute safety of my presence. You are finally experiencing the exquisite, unmatched beauty of my peace. A supernatural peace that firmly guards your heavy heart and your racing mind, serving as an impenetrable shield against the dark chaos of the world. You have finally stopped demanding an immediate miracle, and in doing so, you have perfectly created the quiet, empty, trusting space necessary to properly receive one. This is the profound turning point of your spiritual journey. By accepting that my peace must precede my provision, you are stepping out of the exhausting cycle of human panic and entering the sacred rhythm of divine grace. You are choosing to trust my wisdom over your own frantic desires, declaring that my presence is infinitely more valuable than any physical rescue. But even as this beautiful, sustaining tranquility settles over your soul, I know that your human mind still wrestles with the quiet, lingering question of the calendar. You have surrendered the outcome, and you have embraced the peace, but the quiet shadow of time still tries to tap you on the shoulder, whispering that perhaps I have forgotten to set the clock. I hear that quiet, persistent whisper in your mind, my child. You have beautifully surrendered the outcome of your struggle, and you have allowed my profound peace to anchor your heart. But time remains your great adversary. You look at the calendar, you watch the seasons change, and a cold, familiar panic begins to rise in your chest. The world around you seems to be moving forward at a blinding speed. You see others receiving their breakthroughs, celebrating their victories, and crossing the finish lines you are still desperately trying to reach. Society has handed you a rigid, unforgiving script of exactly where you should be by this stage of your life, It tells you that you should have a secure career, a flawless reputation, and a life entirely free from financial hardship or grief. When your reality does not match that worldly script, the enemy steps in using the ticking clock as a weapon against your soul, convincing you that you have simply been left behind. Let me dismantle that cruel, heavy lie right now. I do not wear a watch, and my kingdom does not operate on the frantic, anxious schedules of human expectation. The milestones you are using to measure your worth were created by a fragile world that is obsessed with speed rather than depth. You feel a crushing sense of failure because you are comparing your beautifully complex, uniquely ordained journey to the shallow, curated timelines of the people around you. You believe that because your story is unfolding slowly, it must be fundamentally flawed. You wonder if perhaps you made a wrong turn years ago, missing the window of my blessing, and are now doomed to wander in the wilderness of missed opportunities. You carry the quiet shame of feeling like a disappointment, silently apologizing for not being further along. Look closely at the way you view your life. You are holding a single frayed thread right up to your eyes, focusing intensely on the knots, the messy tangles, and the dark, uncomfortable colors of your current season. Because that one tangled thread is all you can see, you naturally assume the entire design is ruined. You feel the painful tension of being pulled tight, and you mistake my careful weaving for punishment. But I am standing back, viewing the magnificent completed tapestry of your entire existence from the vantage point of eternity. I see how this dark thread of waiting is absolutely necessary to highlight the brilliant gold thread of the miracle that is coming. If I were to pull that dark thread out simply because it makes you uncomfortable right now, the entire masterpiece would unravel. My timing is never a matter of neglect. It is a matter of perfect, divine precision. When days turn into weeks and weeks bleed into years, without a visible shift in your circumstances, a profound, quiet dread tries to take root in your spirit. You begin to silently question whether I have simply forgotten you. You see me answering the prayers of your friends, your family, and even perfect strangers, and you wonder if your file has somehow been lost in the vastness of heaven. You sit in the quiet of your room and wonder, does he still see me? Does he remember what I asked for? My precious child, I could sooner forget how to keep the stars in the sky than forget a single detail of your life. I have inscribed your name on the palms of my hands. Every single tear you have cried in frustration over the calendar has been carefully collected. I have not turned my face away from you, and I have not been distracted by the noise of the universe. I am intimately, deeply focused on the exact second your breakthrough needs to arrive to achieve its greatest possible eternal purpose, to rebuild your shattered trust in my timing. I want you to look backward before you attempt to look forward. Human memory is incredibly fragile, especially when it is under the intense pressure of a current storm. So I want you to actively remember my faithfulness in your past. Think of the massive storms you survived 5, 10, or 20 years ago. Think of the situations that felt entirely hopeless, the moments when you were absolutely certain you would not survive the night. Remember the times you cried out in the darkness, entirely convinced that your story was over. Did I not provide for you then? Did I not make a way through the impossible wilderness exactly when you needed it? I was not late then, and I will not be late now. The exact same faithful Father who carried you through the deepest valleys of your past is the exact same Father holding you securely in this current waiting room. Use those powerful memories of my past deliverance as heavy, solid anchors for your current storm. When panic tries to tell you that this time is different, that this time you will actually sink, let the undeniable history of my grace completely silence the fear. Let the record of my love prove to your anxious mind that I have never once abandoned you halfway through the journey. It is never too late for me to redeem what you feel has been permanently lost. You mourn over the years You feel the locusts have eaten the time spent in the wrong relationships, the years lost to financial ruin, illness, or profound paralyzing grief. You look at your graying hair or the passing seasons, and you feel an agonizing ache in your chest, believing the best, most vibrant chapters of your story have already permanently closed. You think you have simply run out of time. But I am the creator of time itself. I can do more in a single perfectly orchestrated moment of divine favor than you can accomplish in 20 years of exhausting, frantic human striving. When I finally open the door you have been waiting in front of for so long, you will look back at this long, painful hallway and realize that you did not lose a single solitary second. You will see clearly that every day of delay was actively preparing the soil of your heart to sustain the massive weight of the coming harvest. Allow this profound truth to fundamentally transform your lingering doubt into a quiet, steadfast conviction. Stop trying to force the hands of the clock to move faster. Stop exhausting your fragile spirit by constantly calculating how far behind you feel. You are not behind. You are not late. You are standing exactly where you need to be, held perfectly in the center of my sovereign will. The panic of feeling left behind by the world is a heavy, useless coat that you no longer need to wear. Let it slip from your weary shoulders right now, falling permanently to the ground. As you finally accept that my timing is absolutely flawless, you will feel a deep, physical release sweep through your entire body. Take a deep, profound spiritual exhale. Breathe out the anxious timelines, the societal pressures, and the suffocating fear of missed opportunities. Breathe in the absolute certainty that I am already walking in your tomorrow, completely preparing the ground for your arrival. You do not have to rush. You do not have to run frantically to catch up with a world that is running in the wrong direction. You simply have to walk quietly beside me, trusting that when the perfect moment arrives, the sea will part so naturally and so beautifully that you will wonder why you ever doubted my invisible hand. Your faith is no longer fragile. It is beautifully becoming an unshakable fortress, a deep resonant knowing that I am entirely good, even when I am entirely silent. And as this unshakable confidence firmly roots itself in your soul, I want you to recognize the supernatural work that is occurring inside you right now. You might think you are merely resting, but this brief pause, this sacred fraction of an hour you have given me, is quietly forging an unstoppable resilience within your spirit. In the eyes of the world, sitting perfectly still is often mistaken for surrender in the worst possible sense. The frantic society you live in insists that if you are not in constant motion, you are losing ground, falling entirely behind, or simply giving up the fight. You have been conditioned to believe that exhaustion is the only valid proof of your dedication, and that resting is a luxury you simply cannot afford until every problem is perfectly solved. But I want to reveal the profound, entirely countercultural spiritual reality of what is actually happening in your soul right now. Stillness is never weakness. It is the absolute ultimate source of supernatural strength. When you intentionally choose to stop running and sit quietly in my presence, you are not retreating from the fierce battles of your daily life. You are actively stepping directly into my divine armory. You are deliberately gathering the eternal, unshakable resources necessary to face the massive giants waiting just outside your door. Every single second you spend breathing in my peace is a deliberate, powerful act of spiritual fortification. Think deeply about how a master blacksmith creates a formidable weapon. A sword is not made strong by being constantly frantically swung in the air without purpose. It is made remarkably strong by being held entirely still in the intense purifying heat of the fire, and then resting quietly on the anvil to cool. Your fragile spirit operates in the exact same way. By deliberately gifting me these 5 precious minutes, you are intentionally allowing the restorative, consuming fire of my Holy Spirit to completely burn away the brittle, exhausted layers of your worldly panic. You are actively allowing me to permanently rewire the very pathways of your tired mind. the deeply entrenched anxious loops that have kept you awake at night, the fearful forecasting of tomorrow, the bitter unresolved regrets of yesterday, and the endless exhausting calculations of disaster are being systematically dismantled in this sacred quiet. I am completely replacing your fragile human reactivity with a resilient, heavenly endurance. You are learning the biblical principle of spiritual growth, discovering that true power does not come from how fast you can run, but from how deeply you are anchored. This beautiful intentional pause acts as a heavy, entirely impenetrable spiritual armor for your vulnerable soul. As you sit here, no longer desperately trying to defend yourself with your own limited strength, I am carefully placing the belt of absolute truth securely around your waist, completely silencing the enemy's relentless whispers that you are a failure. I am fastening the brilliant breastplate of righteousness firmly over your chest, fiercely protecting your deeply wounded heart from the painful, unexpected arrows of condemnation, bitterness, and shame. I am fitting your tired, blistered feet with the supernatural readiness that comes entirely from the gospel of peace, so that when you finally stand up to face the world again, you will not stumble over the unexpected obstacles of tomorrow. This is not merely a comforting, poetic metaphor, my child. This is a very real, immensely powerful spiritual transaction occurring right now in the unseen realm. You walked into this quiet space just moments ago, feeling incredibly vulnerable, entirely exposed, and deeply afraid. But you are currently being clothed in the invincible, radiant strength of your Creator. Because of this armor, I want you to feel a massive, undeniable shift in your core identity taking place in this exact moment. For far too long, you have walked through your difficult days, feeling like a helpless victim of your unpredictable circumstances. You have stared at the mounting financial hardships, the terrifying medical uncertainties, and the heartbreaking fractured relationships within your family, and you have felt utterly defeated, as if life were simply a tragedy that was happening to you. But you are not a victim. My precious child, you are the deeply loved, highly protected, completely chosen son or daughter of the Most High King. I want you to gently lift your head right now and feel the overwhelming, undeniable courage that comes from finally remembering who you truly are. The Creator of the entire universe is standing fiercely by your side, fiercely guarding your fragile spirit, and completely intimately directing your every step. You are completely enveloped in a love that cannot be threatened by any worldly crisis. Worldly courage relies entirely on self-confidence, demanding that you somehow find the energy within yourself to push through the pain. But divine courage is vastly different. Divine courage does not require you to be brave. It simply requires you to believe that I am entirely sovereign over everything that frightens you. The enemy wants you to cower in the dark corners of your life, completely paralyzed by the fear of what might happen next. But I am calling you to confidently rise. I am commanding your weary spirit to stand tall, not because the difficult challenges waiting outside your door have magically disappeared, but because they have completely lost their terrifying power to destroy you. The immense mountains standing in your way are absolutely nothing compared to the magnificent God standing securely within your heart. You must realize that you are no longer the exact same exhausted, terrified person who sat down heavily just a few minutes ago. That old version of you, the one that was frantically running entirely on the toxic fumes of human effort and desperation, has been beautifully and permanently laid to rest in this quiet sanctuary. You are no longer drawing your daily energy from the shallow, completely depleted well of your own empty reserves. You have finally tapped into the ultimate source. You are now being fueled directly, continuously, and perfectly by my endless grace. My grace is never a limited resource that you must carefully ration for fear of running out before the week is over. It is a vast, bottomless ocean of supernatural power, and it is actively rushing into your soul right now, completely filling every hollow, aching space that the broken world left entirely empty. Feel the radiant, undeniably warm physical sensation of this divine empowerment washing over your entire being. Notice how the heavy, agonizing tension in your shoulders has completely melted away, allowing your spine to naturally straighten. Notice how the suffocating, anxious tightness in your chest has been completely replaced by a deep, expansive capacity to finally breathe freely. You are being fundamentally entirely changed from the inside out. The frantic, nervous energy that used to desperately dictate your decisions has been permanently evicted from your mind, replaced by a grounded, steadfast conviction that you can absolutely endure whatever comes next. You no longer have to be afraid of the phone ringing unexpectedly. You do not have to be terrified of the upcoming medical appointment, the incredibly difficult conversation you need to have, or the looming, intimidating stack of unpaid bills sitting on your counter. They are just temporary, worldly details, completely and entirely subject to my supreme, unfailing authority. When you finally step back into the rushing, chaotic current of your daily routine, you will carry this impenetrable, quiet sanctuary completely inside of you. You will no longer be easily shaken or quickly toppled by the shifting winds of human opinion or the sudden violent storms of unexpected hardship. You will stand remarkably firm, deeply and securely rooted in the unshakable bedrock of my unconditional love. The people around you will look at your life and deeply wonder how you are remaining so incredibly calm while everything in the world seems to be falling apart. They will see a completely incomprehensible radiant peace shining directly through your eyes, and they will immediately know that you are drawing your incredible strength from a well they cannot see. This is the magnificent, undeniably powerful testimony of a life entirely surrendered to me. This is the breathtaking beauty of a heart that has finally truly learned how to be completely still in my presence. Let this profound, life-altering courage completely and utterly saturate your spirit right now, because we are rapidly approaching the most vital turning point of this quiet encounter. You are no longer desperately pleading for mere survival. You are boldly and confidently standing on the absolute precipice of a magnificent spiritual victory. The heavy, suffocating chains of your fear have been entirely broken, and the exhausting, impossible burden of control has been permanently and beautifully surrendered. You are perfectly safe, infinitely loved, and completely prepared for whatever comes next. You have successfully traded your fragile human panic for my enduring heavenly resilience, and in doing so, you have perfectly positioned your heart to experience the absolute greatest transformation of all. As that unstoppable resilience fully takes root, I want you to feel the very atmosphere inside your chest begin to dramatically change. Do you feel it? It is a profound, palpable shift deep within your spirit, a quiet but magnificent turning point in our time together. For so long you have lived under the suffocating weight of your own expectations, dragged down by the relentless demands of a world that never stops moving. You have been running on the fumes of your own human effort, desperately trying to keep the fragile pieces of your life from shattering on the ground. But right now, in this sacred fraction of time, something entirely miraculous is happening. The heavy iron chains of your exhaustion and fear are finally, definitively breaking. They are not just loosening, my child. They are completely shattering, falling away from your weary soul and dissolving into the quiet stillness of this room. In their place, a deep, abiding, and miraculous hope is rushing in to completely fill the empty space. It is a hope that does not rely on what your eyes can see or what your hands can hold. It is a hope anchored entirely in my unchanging nature. You gave me these 5 minutes of genuine surrender, and in exchange, I have completely rewritten the posture of your heart. You are breathing differently now. The shallow, anxious gasps for air have been replaced by deep, steady, life-giving breaths. Listen to the absolute certainty in my voice as I speak directly to the deepest, most hidden corners of your soul. You are entirely forgiven. You are entirely seen, and you are entirely unconditionally loved. Every single mistake you have ever made, every moment of desperate, frantic self-reliance, and every season where you drifted away from, my presence has been completely washed clean by my grace. When I look at you right now, I do not see a disappointed, exhausted wanderer who failed to keep up with the impossible pace of the world. I see my precious child, fully restored, fully accepted, and beautifully clothed in perfect righteousness. The quiet guilt you carried into this room, the secret shame that told you you were not worthy of my comfort because of your inconsistency, has been completely eradicated. I have removed it from you as far as the east is from the west. You do not have to hide your flaws from me, because I have seen every single one of them, and I have chosen to completely cover them in an unending, radiant mercy. This was the central promise I made to you when I first gently asked you to simply stop and breathe. I promised that if you would just give me a few moments of your undivided attention, you would find the eternal comfort you have been so desperately seeking. And now, you are experiencing the undeniable, beautiful reality of that promise. Your short, courageous investment of time, your willingness to simply sit in the quiet and let go of the noisy world, has yielded a harvest of peace that the world could never possibly offer or understand. The transaction is complete. The heavy burden has been permanently lifted from your shoulders, and my unshakable peace has securely taken its place. You are no longer striving for a victory you have to earn. You are resting securely in a victory I have already won on your behalf. The spiritual chains that once held you captive to panic and despair have been completely dissolved by the sheer magnitude of my presence. I want you to completely pause and celebrate what has just taken place within you. We are not going to look at the massive external mountains waiting outside your window right now. We are not going to focus on the financial debt, the medical reports, or the fractured relationships that still need mending. Those worldly circumstances will be addressed in my perfect time, and they are already completely subject to my sovereign will. But right now, in this holy, quiet space, I want you to fully recognize that the greatest, most profound miracle has already occurred, and it has occurred entirely inside your own heart. Your faith, which was just bruised, battered, and on the absolute verge of completely giving up, has experienced a glorious, undeniable resurrection. You walked into this moment feeling spiritually entirely dead, drained of all joy, and profoundly empty. You felt like dry bones scattered in a barren desert, wondering if you would ever feel the rushing water of my spirit again. But look at your spirit now. It is brilliantly alive. It is pulsing with a renewed, steadfast trust. You have remembered how to hope. You have remembered how to trust in a love that you cannot physically touch, but can undeniably feel. This is the magnificent turning point of your journey. The true miracle was never just about me changing your difficult situation. It was always about me entirely changing you. The internal resurrection of your faith is infinitely more valuable than any external deliverance, because a resurrected faith can survive absolutely any storm the world tries to throw at it. I have completely fortified your inner world, replacing your brittle human panic with a resilient, heavenly endurance. Let the overwhelming relief completely wash over you like a warm, cleansing rain. You do not have to fight the tears that are welling up in your eyes right now. Let them fall freely down your cheeks. They are not tears of sorrow, exhaustion, or bitter defeat. They are the beautiful healing tears of pure joy and profound recognition. You are finally recognizing my immediate consuming presence, wrapping around you, holding you tighter than your anxiety ever could. For the first time in what feels like months, or even years, you are not vibrating with a frantic, desperate need to control the outcome of your life. You are completely at rest. You are finally allowing yourself to be held. This deep, unshakable joy you are feeling is not a fleeting, temporary emotion. It is the permanent, beautiful reality of a soul that has finally found its way back home. The heavy, exhausting, relentless pursuit of worldly security has been completely replaced by the quiet, absolute certainty of my divine protection. You are safe here. You are entirely, completely safe. The enemy can no longer use your exhaustion to convince you that you are alone, because the undeniable warmth of my spirit is currently entirely consuming every lingering shadow of doubt within your mind. You have successfully completed the incredibly difficult work of surrender, and the glorious reward is this magnificent, overwhelming peace. Your heart is entirely light, completely unburdened, and perfectly aligned with my perfect will. As you sit here basking in the radiant glow of this internal resurrection, allow yourself to feel the absolute purity of this moment. There is no rushing. There is no demanding ticking clock. There is only the beautiful, quiet communion between a loving father and his deeply cherished child. You have traded your heavy yoke for my light one, and you have discovered that my promises are not just empty words. They are the most solid reality in the entire universe. The shift in your spirit is permanent. The old, terrified version of you has passed away in this stillness, and an entirely new, spiritually resilient believer has boldly taken your place. Now that your heart is completely full, entirely at peace, and firmly anchored in the unshakable truth of my love, you are finally ready. You are no longer desperate, no longer frantic, and no longer begging from a place of spiritual poverty. You are standing securely in the rich, overflowing abundance of my grace. And because your internal world has been entirely miraculously restored, we can now gently lift our eyes to look toward the horizon. We can now begin to watch as the brilliant breaking light of your external deliverance prepares to beautifully rise over the very circumstances you once thought would entirely destroy you. Look toward that horizon with me now, my child. For so long, your eyes have been conditioned to see only the heavy, oppressive darkness of the valley. You have spent countless exhausting nights staring into the shadows of your circumstances, wondering if the sun would ever truly rise again over your life. You have walked through the long, freezing winter of your waiting, wrapped firmly in the chilling winds of uncertainty, believing that the barren branches of your story would never again see the vibrant bloom of spring. But as you stand securely here in the warmth of my presence, with your heart entirely at peace and your spirit beautifully resurrected, I want you to lift your gaze. The long, agonizing night is finally ending. The deep, heavy blackness that once surrounded you is beginning to violently fracture, giving way to the brilliant, undeniable colors of my approaching dawn. The physical breakthrough you have been so desperately praying for is no longer just a distant, abstract possibility. It is actively in motion. It is rushing towards you right now, perfectly and meticulously orchestrated by my unseen hands. While you were bravely sitting in the darkness, faithfully learning how to trust me, without seeing the immediate evidence, I was never standing still. I have been tirelessly moving throughout the vast expanse of your life, working in dimensions and spaces that your human eyes could not possibly perceive. I want you to vividly imagine the massive, terrifying obstacles that have stood in your way for so long, the towering walls of financial debt that seemed entirely impossible to scale, the complex, painful relational blockades that deeply divided your family, and the heavy iron gates of medical fear that threatened to lock you in a permanent prison of despair. You looked at those mountains and wept, convinced they were permanent fixtures in your landscape. But right now, at this exact moment, those very mountains are actively being cleared away. My hands are shifting the heavy stones. I am smoothing out the rugged, treacherous paths that once made you stumble, and I am entirely removing the hidden snares the enemy carefully laid out to trap you. The tightly closed doors that bruised your knuckles when you frantically pounded on them in the past are now hearing the undeniable command of my voice. The heavy locks are turning. The rusted hinges are breaking. They are preparing to swing wide open exactly on my perfect, flawless timeline. This is the breathtaking reality of my sovereignty. There are countless moving pieces to your story, delicate threads connected to the hearts and minds of other people, intricate details of timing and provision that needed to be perfectly aligned before the blessing could be safely released. I have been softening the hardened hearts of those who misunderstood you. I have been quietly shifting the deeply entrenched systems of the world to make a completely clear, unobstructed path for your feet. Even when the silence in your life was deafening, the spiritual realm was echoing with the constant, powerful activity of my angels working diligently on your behalf. The answer to your prayer was dispatched the very first time you cried out in the darkness, but it has been carefully navigating through the resistance of the world, shielded completely by my divine protection, waiting for this exact appointed moment to be fully revealed. But as you feel this radiant, confident hope rising in your chest, as you watch the spectacular light of this miracle begin to spill over the horizon of your life, We must firmly anchor this joy in the profound truth we have established together. You are now fully prepared to receive this physical breakthrough, but you are only ready because your heart is already completely satisfied in me. This is the crucial, unbreakable rule of my love that we have carefully navigated. The deep internal peace must always precede the massive external blessing. If I had violently torn open those doors for you months ago, while you were still frantically operating in the toxic energy of worldly panic and self-reliance, the sheer force of the miracle would have completely overwhelmed you. Think of a small, fragile boat attempting to carry a massive cargo of solid gold. The treasure is undeniably beautiful, but if the vessel has not been carefully expanded and fortified to handle the immense weight, the very gift meant to enrich the sailor will immediately pull the boat to the bottom of the ocean. You would have grasped at the blessing with a terrified, white-knuckled grip, utterly consumed by the fear of losing it again. You would have worshipped the provision rather than the provider, and the very gift meant to free you would have slowly become another cruel master, demanding your constant anxious attention to maintain it. Look at how beautifully different you are now, because you chose to endure the uncomfortable waiting, because you actively surrendered your exhausting illusion of control and allowed my spirit to thoroughly rebuild your internal foundation. Your hands are completely open. You are no longer anticipating this miracle as a desperate, starving beggar who needs the external circumstances to validate their worth or secure their safety. You are watching the breakthrough arrive from the unshakable, elevated position of a deeply loved child who is already entirely full. You have discovered the profound, magnificent secret of the kingdom. You do not actually need the miracle to be whole, because my presence has already made you completely whole. And it is precisely this beautiful, detached contentment, this deep, secure realization that I am entirely enough for you, even if the circumstances never changed, that makes you perfectly capable of stewarding the immense blessing that is about to pour into your life. Feel the exquisite, unmatched joy of this specific anticipation. It is a completely different sensation than the frantic, desperate wishing you used to experience. Desperation is fueled by a terrifying fear that I might not show up. Joyful anticipation is fueled by the absolute rock-solid certainty that I am already here. Let this radiant hope completely fill your lungs. Breathe in the crisp electrical air of the morning. You can practically hear the sound of the heavy chains hitting the floor as the obstacles are permanently removed. You can feel the warmth of the sun breaking through the dense clouds, touching your face, with the undeniable promise of a new season. The waiting room has served its profound purpose, and its doors are finally opening outward into the vast, beautiful expanse of your restored future. I am actively aligning the right conversations, softening the hardened hearts, and transferring the necessary resources to ensure that when this miracle arrives, it will not be partial, fragile, or temporary. It will be a completely undeniable, staggering testament to my absolute sovereignty and my fierce, protective love for you. As the brilliant light of this physical rescue washes over your circumstances, I want your primary adoration to remain entirely, intensely focused on me. When the financial pressure suddenly lifts, when the medical report completely changes, or when the broken relationship is beautifully and miraculously restored, the world will tell you that you simply got lucky. The enemy will whisper that it was just a random coincidence, or the result of your own newly discovered strength. But you and I will know the profound, intimate truth. You will look at the breathtaking beauty of the answered prayer, and you will immediately look past it, locking your eyes directly with mine. You will recognize my specific fingerprints on every single detail of the deliverance. The blessing itself will not steal your attention. Rather, it will become a brilliant, polished mirror that perfectly reflects the absolute goodness of your Creator back into your soul. You will rejoice in the gift, but you will profoundly, fiercely worship the giver. The emotional intensity of this moment is meant to be staggering. My child, let it lift you entirely off the ground. The heavy, exhausting years of weeping endure for a night, but the absolute, unrestrained joy comes in the morning, and your morning has finally, definitively arrived. The sky is exploding with the vibrant colors of my faithfulness. The cold, barren ground you have been weeping over is actively breaking open to reveal the massive golden harvest I have been carefully protecting beneath the soil. You are standing on the absolute precipice of a completely new chapter, holding a resurrected faith that cannot be shaken by anything in this world. You have survived the grueling darkness you have completely conquered, the quiet despair, and you have learned how to firmly hold my hand in the void. And now the void is being completely filled with brilliant, uncontainable light. The breakthrough is here. The horizon is absolutely ablaze with the undeniable reality of my power. But as you step forward to finally walk into the beautiful, radiant landscape of this answered prayer, there is one final immensely important invitation I must extend to you. The miracle will beautifully change your circumstances, but the true journey of our deep, abiding intimacy is only just beginning. The miracle will beautifully change your circumstances, but the true journey of our deep, abiding intimacy is only just beginning. Think about the posture of your heart when you first sat down. You were completely bent over, spiritually gasping for air, crushed under the immense, invisible weight of worldly expectations. You were carrying the deep, aching loneliness of feeling entirely misunderstood, the heavy, suffocating panic of financial hardship, and the quiet, persistent dread of unresolved family conflict. You had completely forgotten what it felt like to be held, relying solely on your own fragile logic to navigate an entirely unpredictable world. But look at the breathtaking, magnificent transformation that has occurred in just a handful of minutes. The heavy iron chains of your exhaustion have completely dissolved. The frantic, terrified child who walked through the door has been beautifully replaced by a spiritually mature, deeply anchored believer who implicitly and completely trusts their Father's heart. You are no longer vibrating with the anxious energy of survival. You are breathing in the steady, rhythmic, life-giving air of absolute victory. Allow this soaring sense of pure, unadulterated worship to completely wash over you. It is a profound gratitude that requires absolutely no eloquent words or complicated theological explanations. It is simply the undeniable, beautiful recognition of an unbreakable bond of divine love that now securely connects us. You are feeling the incredible, radiant warmth of a God who sees you exactly as you are, deeply flawed and wonderfully human, yet loves you with a fierce, unconditional devotion. This profound contentment you feel right now, this secure, unshakable joy that is completely independent of your temporary worldly circumstances, is the absolute greatest treasure you will ever possess in this life. When the massive, heavy doors finally swing open and your physical breakthrough boldly steps into the light, it will not be the primary source of your happiness. It will merely be a beautiful, joyful echo of the magnificent, sustaining peace that is already perfectly established inside your reborn soul. In a few short moments, our 5 minutes will gently come to a close. You will slowly open your eyes, and you will hear the familiar, chaotic sounds of your life, eagerly calling out to you. The screen will light up with new notifications. The phone will inevitably ring, and the relentless demands of your daily schedule will attempt to pull you violently back into the rushing, demanding current of the world. The difficult conversations may still need to happen. The daily chores will still be waiting, and the complexities of human relationships will still require your attention. But I want to make you a powerful, unbreakable promise right now. As you stand up from this quiet sanctuary and step back into that busy, noisy environment, you're absolutely no longer walking alone. You're not returning to the heavy battlefield unarmed, and you are certainly not returning with the exact same fragile, anxious heart. The profound, supernatural peace you have found in these 5 minutes will go powerfully and directly before you. It will act as a brilliant, unwavering guiding light, illuminating every dark step and completely silencing the loud, demanding panic of the world. You will find yourself responding to frustration with a sudden, inexplicable patience. When someone speaks harshly to you, instead of reacting out of defensive anger, you will beautifully offer them the same gentle grace and mercy that I have just poured so generously into you. When a sudden, unexpected obstacle appears in your path, instead of immediately spiraling into despair, you will feel a quiet, steadfast smile form in your spirit, completely confident that I am already handling it. This is the magnificent, life-altering power of actively carrying my presence with you into the ordinary, seemingly mundane moments of your busy day. Because of this beautiful victory, I am extending a deeply loving, permanent invitation to you right now. Do not let this quiet encounter be a rare, desperate emergency cord that you only remember to pull when you are completely drowning in sorrow. Walk with me in this newfound brilliant light every single day, making it the most important appointment on your calendar. Tomorrow morning, before the heavy noise of the world attempts to dictate the anxious rhythm of your heart. Give me another 5 minutes. Let us meet in this sacred stillness once again. Let me consistently wash away the dusty residue of your worldly anxieties before they ever have the chance to settle deeply into your spirit. Spiritual growth is not a single dramatic lightning bolt moment. It is the quiet, beautiful daily discipline of deliberately choosing my presence over your panic. When you make this daily intentional choice, you actively build a towering fortress of faith that no sudden hardship, no frightening medical diagnosis, and no worldly disappointment can ever possibly penetrate. As the days gradually turn into weeks, and you finally watch the massive, immovable obstacles of your life begin to crumble exactly according to my perfect, flawless timing, I urge you to hold fiercely fast to my hand. When the joyful financial abundance finally replaces the crushing debt, when the miraculous healing completely replaces the terrifying sickness, and when the beautiful reconciliation totally restores the bitter family conflict, do not let the stunning beauty of the answered prayer distract you from the eternal goodness of the one who answered it. The human heart is so incredibly prone to forgetting the faithful rescuer the exact moment the rescue is entirely complete. But you are wonderfully different now. You have learned the profound, life-altering value of the waiting room. You have learned that my timing is always an act of perfect love, carefully protecting you from blessings you were not yet spiritually mature enough to carry. You will walk into your miracle with a heart of pure, humble gratitude rather than a heart of arrogant self-reliance. You will know without a single shadow of a doubt that I am entirely good, deeply faithful, and always precisely on time. So let out one final deep, beautifully relieved breath in this quiet space. The heavy, exhausting chains are gone forever. The suffocating, impossible burden of control has been permanently surrendered to the only hands strong enough to hold it. You are perfectly safe, infinitely loved, and brilliantly aligned with the magnificent, hopeful future I have written specifically for you. Walk forward into today with your head held incredibly high, wrapped entirely in the warm, protective, and unshakable embrace of my daily grace. You bravely gave me your time when you felt you had none to spare, and in return, I have joyfully given you my eternal sustaining peace to carry forever. To permanently seal this holy moment, to close our 5 minutes together, and to give you a tangible, unshakable anchor for the challenging days ahead, I want you to join me in a short, heartfelt prayer. Whenever the old fears try to creep back into your mind, whenever the world tries to aggressively steal your newly found joy, I want you to close your eyes, remember the profound warmth of this exact moment, and speak these simple, honest words directly from your heart to mine. Father, thank you for gently meeting me in the absolute quiet of this moment. Thank you for patiently taking the heavy, exhausting burdens I could no longer carry on my own, and for beautifully replacing my deep fear with your perfect, enduring peace. I ask for your continued grace and forgiveness for the times I tried to run far ahead of your timing, relying only on my own fading strength. Today, I completely and joyfully surrender my finances, my family conflicts, my health, and my entire unknown future into your powerful, loving hands. I trust that your timing is absolutely flawless, and that your love for me is unconditional. As I step back into the loud noise of my busy day, let your Holy Spirit go before me, lighting my path. Give me the profound wisdom to hear your gentle whisper above the worldly chaos, and the immense courage to walk confidently in your brilliant light. I know that I am absolutely never walking alone. I will praise you faithfully in the waiting, and I will worship you fiercely in the breakthrough. In Jesus' name, amen.